Good morning. My name is Reverend Kylie Renner, and on behalf of the entire One Spiritual Center community, I want to welcome you again to my living room. With me here is Sid Fendley and Zephyr Renner, and we are so grateful to have this opportunity to be together in community this morning. We have some special guests this morning, which we're excited to share with you, and it's been incredibly challenging to figure out exactly how to approach all the things that are going on in the world right now in our country, and how to bring it to some space of a spiritual perspective, because as Sid and I were talking about this morning, everything kind of feels like it's not enough, like it doesn't quite express all of that which we are feeling. And so I just realized that there's a lot going on right now, and all of us are experiencing it in our own unique ways. And there's a lot of opportunities for us to be looking at the things that aren't working around us, and it's painful. And it seems to be magnified by all of the other things that are happening at the same time. And so here we find ourselves needing to be making sure that we're paying attention in the right way to what's going on. And so I'm super grateful to have this opportunity to reflect with one another, to remind each other that we're connected to the one source and that it's guiding all of this. And we have some exciting news for later, but I just am so grateful to have this opportunity to be together this morning in these challenging and transformative times, to just step back a little bit, so that we can be bringing our full awareness and our full capacity to really change things, our capacity to see clearly to the situations that we're seeing that so importantly need our attention right now. And so thank you for joining us in my living room this morning. We're gonna start with some prayer. So if you're comfortable, just closing your eyes, we're going to bring ourselves present to this moment that's never been made before, in the mind and the heart and the love of the one. And as we allow ourselves to open, we recognize through our questions and our fear and our pain and our grief that the power and the presence of the one is in and through and as all of it. That it is not separate. And so we allow ourselves to feel all of the things that we get to feel when we are willing to be fully present here. And I just know that Spirit is guiding us. It is guiding us in the exact right ways to move forward together through the lens of belonging to one another. Through the lens of recognizing that your prayer is mine and mine is yours. And it is in this connection and in this knowing that we bring our full hearts to this day. And we send out prayers of love and protection to all those who are moving through this time, who are calling out for our love. We pour that love and protection all over the grieving hearts, over the fear and the anger. for we truly know that we are one. And so I just know that this day unfolds in a perfection that is bigger than any one of us. I know Spirit is in charge, is leading the way. And I let it be. And so it is. So to prepare the way for our meditation this morning that was recorded actually with John Bartlett and the rest of our amazing band, which is super special this morning, I have chosen a poem by Lao Tzu that feels appropriate for a lot of different reasons, but I was resonating with this line that says, "So there will be room to live." And the idea that the choices we make, including the personal ones, make room for ourselves to live, but also others to be able to live as well. So this is a poem by Lao Tzu. This is a path of letting go, so there will be room to live. If we hold on to our opinions, our minds will become dull and useless. Let go of opinions. If we hold on to possessions, we will always be at risk. Let go of possessions. If we hold on to ego, we will continue to suffer. Let go of ego. Working without thought of praise or blame is the true way of contentment. This is the path of letting go. This is the path of letting go, so there will be room to live. So we allow the meditation to take us where it takes us today as we create space. We create room to live. Thank you so very much, John, for that beautiful song, and for Dimmy and Milo and Sid for playing on it. It was another special thing that we get this morning. So we're going to feature Sid now.
Tune by John Lennon. Sing along. I won't be able to hear you, but, I can imagine. Imagine there's no heaven. It's easy if you try. No hell below us, above us only sky. Imagine all the people living for today. Imagine there's no countries. It isn't hard to do. Nothing to kill or die for, and no religion too. Imagine all the people living life in peace. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you'll join us, and the world will be as one. Imagine no possessions. I wonder if you can. No greed or hunger, all walking hand in hand. Imagine all the people sharing all the world. You may say I'm a dreamer. You know I'm not the only one. I hope someday you'll join us, and the world will be as one. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you'll join us, and the world will be as one.
Thank you so much for that, Sid. It's always a challenge when things go on in the world to try and figure out how to come at it from a spiritual perspective, and what to share that doesn't let us off the hook. And so I want to say first off that this might be an uncomfortable topic or Sunday for some people, especially because I have a tendency to approach some of these things from a different perspective than many New Thought leaders. And so therefore, I have the capacity to therefore hit some buttons that maybe we didn't know that we had. And so I just want to put that out there because I don't want to be feel like I have to be stepping around some serious issues that I believe actually if your leaders are not talking about what's going on in the country right now, then they are committing spiritual malpractice. And I think that it's more and more important for spiritual leaders to be talking about what we can do and what we're required to do in order to keep our eyes open and our power being used in the direction of creating something that we want to live in, and how vital and important that is. And so some of you know my background. I spent many years studying the spiritual basis of nonviolent social movements, and so I on some level feel like completely immersed in what's that which is rising up right now in this time in which it's so clear over and over again that something needs to change around how we deal with systems of oppression in our country, especially around people of color, and how we move from the space of where we are into something else. And I've been really thinking about that. And so I thought back to last week where I had just been talking about on Sunday not taking the bait. And it was actually really funny because the first thing that happened was I picked up my phone right after service and someone had sent me this picture that had been going viral. And they had asked me, do you know this person? Because it happened to be connected with New Mexico. And I had to zoom in and I'm like, oh my God, I do. And my next reaction was so much take the bait. And Sid had to be like, but remember, you're not going to take the bait. And I had to sit with it for a while because the topic really isn't important in a lot of ways, but what I saw from it actually gave me some insight. And so this was supposedly considered some sort of artistic statement that this person was making. I'm not certain that it was effective or making the statement they thought it was making, and that's kind of beside the point. But what I was aware of after totally getting drawn into taking the bait that this artistic statement had laid in front of me was this idea that came out of it, which was that the person who had put this out there was acting like everyone else was the problem. And so they were saying that they what they really needed to do was dispel the negativity that was being sent towards them based on the statement that they had made that was clearly misguided and probably very dangerous at the same time. And that they had been going viral not for the reason they thought they were going to, that in fact their statement wasn't received in that way because the statement wasn't that. And instead of learning from that, instead of saying, wow, maybe what other people are seeing in this is what's actually here, that was just this completely bogus, everyone else is being negative and people should just be loving and kind, and what is all of this about? And it was really eye-opening for me to watch that, because I realized in all of that one of the things that happens when we get some information that doesn't fit what we think our idea of the world is that there's a very real tendency to want to shut it up. to want to say it's everyone else's problem or it's someone else's problem and they're being negative and just push it away. And we have all kinds of woo-woo language to do it and all kinds of things we say and all kinds of ways we shut our eyes and act like it's not our problem when what's real and what's true about being engaged in the world is that we instead of doing that, we actually learn from that which we are receiving. So I was thinking about that from the perspective of being an artist on some level, that no matter what we're putting out there, that we have to be willing on some level to receive that comes back and to learn from it on some level, and that flow is important to this experience that we're having around this call for racial justice in a real and powerful way. So Haruki Murakami, who is a Japanese novelist who have enjoyed many of his books in the recent years, has a statement from one of his books where he says, "Closing your eyes isn't going to change anything. Nothing's going to disappear because you can't see what's going on. In fact, things will even be worse the next time you open your eyes." That's the kind of world we live in. Keep your eyes wide open. Only a coward closes his eyes. Closing your eyes and plugging up your ears won't make time stand still. And so I was thinking about this idea that we want to wish something away. We want to close our eyes. We want to pretend that it's not happening. We want to pretend that it's someone else's problem. We want to pretend that we've already done this work together as a country. We want to pretend all kinds of things, and in doing so, we close our eyes and act like it's not happening, sometimes because it doesn't feel like it's happening to us. And in doing so, we make things worse. And so I keep hearing people say some things that I think we need to stop saying. And one is that this is not who we are. Okay, I've heard not everyone, I've heard people all over the place say, this is not who we are. I can't understand how we got here. And the first thing I want to say is this is exactly who we are. This is exactly who we are as a country. It is. It is our history. It is our present. It has come through all of the things that we've created as a country, all of the things we've done out to other countries. It is who we are. And so the only thing that is gained by saying this is not who we are is this sense of, well, it's not who we are. It's just a few people. It's just some bad apples. We can root that out. But what is lost by keeping on saying that is the capacity to actually change it, because we haven't acknowledged that it is actually true, that we are a country of racism, that is founded on racism, that has been founded on these principles that have made people oppressed and have kept people oppressed. And when we keep our eyes closed, we can do some things. We can hobble along. We can deal with the familiar. It's kind of like walking around your house at night if you have not moved your furniture recently, which never happens around here, but that you can actually do it with your eyes closed. You don't need the lights on. We can deal with familiar things with our eyes closed, but if we're really going to do deep and important work, we have to have our eyes open. And that requires us to say, this is actually who we are. We might not like it. It might be uncomfortable. It might not feel good, but it is who we are. And so every time we act surprised by the next round of state-sanctioned murder of a Black person, we have to realize that this is exactly who we are, and that the people who have been most impacted by this, it comes to no surprise. So one of the things that I realize is that some things that are impossible to fake, the kind of change that is actually being called for is impossible to just fake, and we can't just deny it away. And so a few weeks ago, I gave a talk about the fact that we can't just deny the virus away, and one of our community members sent me a joke that they'd read or heard years ago about a New Thought minister who died and went to hell, and while they were burning in hell, they kept repeating, "It's not hot, and I'm not here. It's not hot, I'm not here." And I love that joke from the perspective of like I'm seeing some of my colleagues out in the movement taking that perspective around all of that which is happening right now and acting like it's not hot and I'm not here, and asking people to help them perpetuate that myth. And it's so incredibly frustrating to me because it's such a misinterpretation of the principles that underlie the very power that we get to bring to this planet, because what it does is deny the fact that we have this capacity to actually change things and to actually confront them, and that they're not as scary as we thought they were, and that we actually can find solutions and ways forward. But it requires a lot of willingness to disarm ourselves from the lies that we keep on telling about what is, and the things that we keep denying about what is. And we have to disarm ourselves of our defense mechanisms that have us going on attack or retreating, which is the wanting to close our eyes, or wanting to jump to easy answers or explanations and justifications. And I have to tell you, I was really like trying to find a way to talk about this that didn't call out some of the things I'm seeing. But I have to tell you, I keep having this reaction to people wanting to go to some place where they want to say, well, it's just all love, and the only solution is that we need to love each other more. And it's this simple solution is just love. And yes, probably on some great level that's true, but we got to first start by being really willing to be open and keep our eyes open to what's actually happening, and starting to dismantle those systems of oppression so that the love can show up. It's not just love now, and I bristle at all of this unwillingness to even understand the deep pain that is being called forth out of this experience. And that we're seeing exhibited around our country, and this unwillingness to even listen. And so I keep thinking, what are we just not willing to hear? Because if we were just willing to hear as spiritual people, then we wouldn't need to go to these trite, stupid things that we say over and over that really undermine the true pain and the true experience of what is unfolding right now. And so, through the lens of oneness and through the lens of New Thought, we see things differently, but it also gets misused. And I'm hearing it less, but I still have these people who react to the call that Black Lives Matter, and that we need to stand with people of color, and to really understand that there is threat and danger and systems that are harming and killing people of color, including our Native American community here in New Mexico, that truly, like, we have to understand that, and there's still people who think that they're coming from some spiritually advanced place that will say the most stupid thing I've ever heard, which is all lives matter, which is a complete and total misuse of the principles of oneness, because saying Black Lives Matter does not mean that all lives do not matter. It means that from the perspective of oneness, absolutely, we must do everything we can do to dismantle that which keeps on showing up all around us, to actually look at it and to not keep on going back to sleep thinking these are isolated things that only happen in certain places or with certain bad cops. I am sorry, that is not how oneness works. And so we think we're being all spiritually elevated by getting to some easy solution that says that love is all that matters, and compassion and peace, and in doing so, continue to perpetuate a lie. And we continue to perpetuate systems of oppression by being unwilling to realize that we have a part in it. And that's what oneness teaches us, is that we have a part in both the pain and the creation of the pain and the healing of that pain, that we have to be part of all of it. And so it's overwhelming. I admit that it is completely overwhelming. And I've spent the last week in tears and enraged and fearful for my family members. And I realize that there's something about this issue at this time that feels so much more poignant, especially because we're seeing that the virus that we're experiencing collectively has so much more of an impact in terms of mortality on communities of color. And so here we are experiencing this kind of compounding of all of these issues coming together at this time. And just certainly it feels like people are waking up from this kind of keeping eyes closed. But I also want to acknowledge that in that overwhelm, it's easy to start to think, oh, this is too much. I need to close my eyes again, or I need to go back to some place where I think I understand what's going on. And we need to resist that urge. Like, we need to resist that urge. We need to keep our eyes open, eyes wide open. So as I kept thinking about this, I kept thinking about how many times I've heard people saying, well, we have already done this work. Like, why is this showing up again? We've already did this. We already had the civil rights movement. Why are we doing this again? Like, and I want to caution against that line of thinking as a line of thinking that is actually about keeping our eyes closed, that it is about not acknowledging how important it is to make sure that we keep on the path. So there's a great quote by Giorno Candellini that says, on the path to great crises await. The first comes when the magic of the beginning has vanished, and the second comes just before you reach the goal. Both ask the question, do you really want this? And so we get caught up in a moment, we get caught up in a moment in which we are feeling the pain of this collective experience, the pain of the murder of an innocent human being, that experience of how is this happening. And we have to, on the path, the requirement is that we not to just stop after the beginning, that we actually keep on the questioning the ways that we're participating, and to realize that the work is not done. In fact, the work is just beginning, and that it requires us to be so aware and so awake and so willing to learn and so willing to see new things that we didn't know were there. So there's this story about Russia right after the fall of communism, and a Belgian company sent 2 representatives to do a feasibility study of selling their products. And the two people went and came back and with very different reports. And so the first was from the first representative saying, well, nobody wears shoes around here. And so if we install a factory, we're going to have very heavy losses. And the second person from the same perspective, came back and said, nobody wears Western shoes here. And if we install a factory here, we will start a fashion trend and sell to the entire population. And I thought about that from the perspective of where we are now. So we could take the perspective of, there's no justice here. We can never find justice. There's no one who wants to participate in that. That's just broken. Or we could take the perspective of there's none here, so we get to build it. So there's opportunity here, so that there's room here. There's room to expand here, and we can really take on responsibility, especially those of us who have skin like mine, who have different experience of this than the people who looks differently than I do, and that we can actually start to give our voice to those who are voiceless, and our breath to those who have no longer have breath, and we can actually start to use that power we have to create this new possibility. But it requires us not going back to sleep. It requires us keeping our eyes open. It requires us not getting overwhelmed by thinking that we can't do it and it's not possible, and keeps us needing to go back to the first principle that we belong to one another, and therefore it's a requirement, if I'm going to live from the principles of oneness, that I figure out everything I can do to remember that your safety is my safety, and your health is my health, and your prosperity is my prosperity, and all for on every level, and make sure that our world reflects that back to us. And it takes work, and it is awkward. And I have to tell you, I'm going to tell you a small story, because it feels like probably one of the most awkward things I've ever done. And it was about 9 years ago, right after I'd first moved to New Mexico, and I was in Dillard's here, and I saw the security guard hassling some African-American couple in the store. And I stood there, and I made a fool of myself, but I stood there and I watched and I listened. And I made sure the security guard saw that I was watching and listening. I got his name, and I know it was awkward, because I'm pretty sure that the African American couple was pretty pissed off that I looked like I was just standing there watching. And now looking back, I wish I had said something to them directly. But what I did was I went home and I called Dillard's and told them what I experienced, and gave them the time and the person's name, and told them that I would not be back shopping there until they addressed the issue, that it was obviously mostly racially motivated, how they were treating these people. And during all of this, Zephyr comes up and he's looking at me and like, what are you doing? Because sometimes I do weird things in public that people don't understand. And he's like, I can't understand, And he hadn't seen what I had seen, and I was so awkward. And I've had opportunities since to do it in less awkward ways, but we have to start, right? We have to start using the fact that I'm probably not going to get harassed in Dillard's for carrying a big bag, to make sure that other people aren't as well. To make sure that people know that we're watching and that we're aware. And this is just some small story, and I'm only sharing it because it was so freaking awkward. And I felt so like, how do I do this in some way that doesn't make it look like I'm watching, want to get involved in a train wreck, or, like that I'm voyeuristic about something. Instead, it was this really, truly, like this desire to make sure that I was standing from this perspective of, I know that in that same position, I would not be treated the same way, and I'm willing to use whatever privilege I have to stand for other people not being treated differently. And it's awkward, and it's uncomfortable. And I still not sure I do it well, but I'm willing to do it, and I'm willing to do it wherever I find ways to do it. And I think that this is the keeping our eyes open, keeping our hearts open, keeping our awareness open, and being willing to flail around and look like idiots until we figure out how to really stand for one another in a more powerful way. And it can only happen until when we're willing to do this work over and over and over again. It's not over. And so it's uncomfortable. It's not easy. It's not easy to look at. It's not easy to acknowledge that it exists in us and around us. It's not easy to acknowledge that it is the history of this country, that it is who we are. It is who is occupying the White House. It is. And that we have this call right now to make sure that whatever we're doing does not continue to perpetuate the lie that is the easy out, that says, well, it's someone else's job, or if I close my eyes, then I can make it go away. And we can't do that, because when we open our eyes, it'll just be worse. And we have to acknowledge, and we have to do something. And so what doing something looks like for each of us is different. And I just know that right here and right now, there's no better time. And there's obviously a spirit is calling for us to step up, and we've been preparing the way. So let's practice. And let's practice keeping our eyes open, and let's pay attention when we want to close our eyes. And we're in it. And we're in it because we belong to one another. So I'm going to shut up now, and I'm going to ask Sid to play for us.
Our prayer of love lifts us high. It heals us, sustains us, and sets us free. Our prayer of love lifts us high. It heals us, sustains us, and sets us free. Our prayer of love lifts us high. It heals us, sustains us, and sets us free.
And so our prayer of love is a prayer of healing and transformation of all of the systems of oppression that keep anyone and everyone, especially people of color, in harm's way. And it is through the transformation that we reveal our true connection, as we allow ourselves to be guided and to disarming ourselves and from moving from a place of true and genuine understanding of our oneness, that it is ours to do, to stand for and with those who are so calling for us to stand with them in pain and in grief and in anger, and in knowing that it is absolutely unacceptable that we continue to allow for the brutality to continue in any way. And so our prayer is a prayer of our own courage to remain open and available to however it is we are guided to be part of a solution that is bigger than just saying the answer is love. And it is a solution that is called forward out of the essence of oneness, that is the solution and solutions and ideas and a movement of spirit that is about Black lives mattering. And we allow for the wisdom of Spirit to guide us in that and in the role that we have to play, both big and small, in every direction, in every part of our communities and families and workplaces, and in every level of our society, that we bring forward our willingness to keep our eyes open, to stop pretending that it's not happening, to stop pretending that it's over or taken care of by somebody else, to actually use our vision and our power and our love in action in a creative and powerful way. And so it is the absence of justice that calls us to justice. And we answer that call through our willingness to stand with and for and around and besides and next to all those who are calling for something new to show up. And so I'm willing to learn, I'm willing to grow, I'm willing to be awkward, I'm willing to say I do not know, and I'm willing to change. And I'm willing to let go so that there is room to breathe, so that there is room to live, so there is room for everyone. And now's the time. Now is always the time. Eyes wide open. We let it be. And so it is.
Our prayer of love lifts us high. It heals us, sustains us, and sets us free. Our prayer of love lifts us high. It heals us, sustains us, and sets us free.
Thank you so much, Sid. So I just have I have a couple of things actually. I want to let you know how to make a contribution to One Spiritual Center if you are called to do so. We have a place on our website, onespiritualcenter.org, where you can do so. You can also text to give. 505-207-4916 is the text to give number. And if you text that number, you'll be prompted to set up an account. And then afterwards, the next time you would like to make a donation, it is super easy to do so. And all you have to do is text the number and put in the amount you would like to give. And all of a sudden, poof, there it is. So those are a couple ways. There's also, if you would like to send a check, I'd be happy to give you my mailing address, and we can get you that if you send a message. So we have also something that we want to let you know, which is that the venue that we normally have service in isn't going to be open for a while. And we've been doing a lot of research about how to safely be together in community. And we're really excited that next week that we're going to be trying something new. So some of you know that Zephyr and I have the privilege to live on this beautiful park, and we have this amazing front yard that has incredible trees and shade and is really, really large and faces the park that has all of this parking. And so we are going to have the band here, the full band here on my front porch, and we're going to welcome people if they would like to come be here with us in person. But there's going to be a couple things that are going to happen. One is that we will be social distancing, and the second thing is that we will be requiring people to be wearing face masks or face coverings while here. So there's room and there's shade, but we're going to be asking people to bring chairs, and if you have your own shade that you would like, besides the shade of a tree, we would welcome that as well. So I'll be sending out the details on Facebook as well as via our email list, but one of the big things you need to know is that we'll be doing it at 11:30 instead of 11, and that's just because of the logistics of all the other things that are happening here on site, which is kind of funny to talk about my house like that. But we were reflecting this morning that in fact that the person who built this house way back in the 50s was a professor at UNM of music. And I'm pretty sure he would be thrilled to know that the trees that he planted all those years ago are going to be shade for us to be able to be together safely in community. So from what we understand, being outside is basically the safest we can get, that we will still be continuing to wear our face masks and make sure we're separated out, but that outside really is a way that we can come together in community, and how great to have a place for us to do that. So there's also bathrooms on site, so that issue has been taken care of. And I'm certain that there will be other things, and we will be awkward, but we will be together in community, and I am really looking forward to that. So next Sunday at 11:30 here in Albuquerque. If you know where Netherwood Park is, that gives you an idea. It's not too far from where we were at the outpost, and all the details will come forward. If you want to shoot me an email or a message, revkylie@gmail.com will get to me, and I can give you the details that way as well if you're not on our email list. And we're going to try it. We'll see what happens. I'm really looking forward to having everyone back together, and I'm very grateful for something that happened that you're just going to have an opportunity to experience in a second, which is that our band got together at Sid's studio and put together recording of our One Love People Get Ready song that we've been doing since we started as a community as our closing song. And we really love this kind of quarantine version of it. it looks like a Zoom call to me, this video that we made, and the face coverings, the whole thing. It's just kind of wonderful. So I hope you enjoy it as much as we do. I look forward to seeing you guys next week. And yay. We also, I guess I should also say, we also understand that if you feel safer staying home, we totally respect that. There's no pressure. It's just an opportunity if you want to be with us, and it gives us a space to have the band together in a safe way as well, and be bringing that to the world that's so in need of some music and some the healing that music can provide right now. So here we go. Here's our One Love song.
One love, one heart. Let's get together and feel alright. One love, one heart. Let's give thanks to the Lord. We can feel alright. People get ready. There's a train coming. You don't need no baggage. Just get on board. Oh, you need a space. Hear that diesel humming. You don't need no ticket. You just thank the Lord. One love, one heart. Let's get together and feel alright. One love, one heart. Let's give thanks to the Lord. We can feel alright. People get ready for the train to Jordan. One picking up passengers from coast to coast. And faith is the key. Open the doors and boredom. There's room for all. Oh, let love the most. One love, one heart. Let's get together and feel alright. One love, one heart. Let's give thanks to the Lord, and we can feel alright. Let's give thanks to the Lord, and we can feel alright.
Oh, thank you guys for that. I think we had a little bit of a technical problem there, so I'll be posting that again. I apologize if that was painful, especially because they put so much work into that. Sometimes you just gotta keep smiling. So thank you, and I'll make sure that file gets uploaded in a way that actually comes through, because uh, it's a great recording. So thank you to Sid and John and Milo and Dimmy for their work on that. And we're so excited that we'll all be together on stage next week. It'll look differently, but we're excited about that. So please be well, take good care of one another, and eyes wide open. Let us sing one last blessing to one another.
Go forth and walk in beauty, and know